Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. This is your host, Eugene Chan, and our guest tonight is Mr. Franklin Wong, who was the Director of Broadcasting from 2008 to 2010. He's with us tonight to talk about how broadcasting media is evolving in Hong Kong. Franklin is a broadcasting and media veteran in Hong Kong. He was involved in establishing RTHK's TV service in the 70s and created the iconic drama series Under the Lime Rock. He has also helmed a dozen films. After that, he worked in Malaysia, Singapore, Beijing, and Australia in various media organizations. He was also Chief Publicity Officer of the Independent Commission Against Corruption in Hong Kong in the 1990s. Welcome, Franklin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming, because we felt that you are the most appropriate person to talk about how the media has evolved in Hong Kong because of your knowledge, experience, exposure. For those viewers' benefit, we know that back in the 50s and 60s, we only have radio. Can you tell us about how do the people for daily lives, how much importance do they put on the radio surf?
The 60s and 70s were the golden days of radio broadcast.
Right.
And that's the time I joined Radio Hong Kong.
Right.
In 1966. To you, Eugene, that's prehistoric.
No, I'm already born.
When I joined Radio Hong Kong, it's one of the government stations.
Right.
And then the other side is commercial radio.
Right.
And then there's a pay radio called Rediffusion.
Okay.
You have to pay monthly fee to listen to their programs. So our main competitor for Radio Hong Kong is commercial radio.
Okay.
But that was a prosperous golden era for radio broadcast. People's entertainment, news, all came from radio.
Even football.
The popular programs, yes, football, Peking opera, Jiaozhou opera,
Oh, really?
Cantonese opera, and modern songs, 時代曲.
Okay.
But most of all, the most attractive programs were the radio drama,
Okay.
storytelling by a single storyteller or by a group of artists. Those were very enchanting programs, captivated a lot of listeners. In fact, the famous radio personalities were household names, and they got lots of fans after them. And some
Franklin,
of them were nicknamed King of Broadcast or Queen of Broadcast.
Allow me to interrupt a little. I believe you were also host of those programs as well. You had fans waiting for you, as I was being told.
Well, very gratifying to have quite a number of followers.
Right.
I would say that up to tens of thousands of fans at those times. And I was nicknamed Prince of Broadcast.
Wow.
I could not be king, but I'm satisfied with that. Anyway, Radio Hong Kong broadcast a variety of programs. And when I joined as a young guy, I had an all-round internship. I was DJ, I was interviewer, location commentator of events, and producer of programs.
Right.
Mostly public affairs programs.
Right. Maybe we move on to the TV section of RTHK. I think you were also involved in that, and one of the household names, as I remember, is what could below the Lime Rock, City Sanha. Maybe you can tell us what happened then and why that program became such a hit, and later on we have a famous song in that as well.
Yes. Well, that was a critical change of fate for myself.
Right.
In 1969, government announced that Radio Hong Kong will start its television service. And then I was recruited into the television section to pioneer television development in Radio Hong Kong, later changed to Radio Television Hong Kong.
Okay, okay.
I was the first batch of pioneers, only a few of us. And we were broadcasters in radio. We didn't know about what is a camera,
Right.
what is a wide-angle lens.
Okay.
But we were dispatched to the BBC for a short training of 6 months. Then I came back and started making programs. That was my debut in television production. The first year we were training ourselves,
Right.
making magazine programs,
Okay.
simple talk shows,
Okay.
etc. But by the second year, I find that television is a powerful medium. And to convey or communicate with people of the society, I think there are other ways of doing it. There used to be interviewing officials, talking heads,
Okay.
talking in rather official languages.
Okay.
And I think, well, the best practice is to touch the heart of the people.
Right.
Emotional appeal as against rational appeal. Emotional appeal would stay much longer if you touch people's heart. So I asked the then director of broadcasting, can we start it to use emotional appeal and let me try to do drama, television drama, to communicate between government and the people.
Right. May I say that will be one of the first Hong Kong had ever had that type of show reaching out to the people. Can I say that?
It was RTHK's first attempt
Right. Okay.
in drama production.
Right. Maybe we move on to something else as well. I mean, you're also, after you left RTHK, you're also helmed a dozen of movies. You know, I've done the research. Hong Kong, at one time, we were the third largest motion picture industry in the world behind India and America. It comes to about 5% of Hong Kong's economy. With all these years of development, do we still have a niche?
Well, there's a rich tradition of movie production in Hong Kong. We have the expertise throughout the value chain, from conception to production to post-production to distribution.
Right.
We were number 2 in the world, following US in the year 1980.
Okay.
Our production volume, our box office, were second in the world.
Oh.
So we have a rich heritage of expertise. Many of the practitioners are still here. They are alive.
Yeah. When you're saying that we are second in the world, would you contribute that to the actual production service team or to our movie stars?
Well, they complement each other.
Right.
You need good actors and actresses or stars to carry your programs. But behind them, they need very good stories. And that's the script. And then you need very good storytellers, the directors, to tell the story. So the whole chain is available in Hong Kong.
Okay. So Franklin, let's move on to the next part of your career, which I'm sure many people will be interested, is your work with ICAC. I mean, the last part of the first part of the show, that I remembered in the 70s, we had all these publicity campaigns that we all remember, like 266-366, the telephone number of ICAC, 報去廉署密密實實, all these things. How do all that come about to be such a slang to everyone's knowledge?
Well, I think it's also the principle I followed with Below the Lion Rock. You talk in people's language. You have to understand them, what their worries are, what they aspire for, what troubles are facing them, and what rumors are there in the community, especially when ICAC was first set up.
In the
there
70s,
were
yes.
rumors and fears and suspicions in the community. Would the ICAC break the economy of Hong Kong? We did business before, lubricating with Hong Bao and the bribe. Now, without these, can we do business?
Right. So
And
Franklin,
then, would ICAC be too powerful?
Right.
All these were worries. So ICAC had to clarify all this and dispel rumors, clear misconceptions, and tell people the evils of corruption. And that's why there should be an ICAC, because all the evils, and we summarize that in our slogans.
Right.
有道理變冇道理，輪到你都唔到你，有才幹亦都冇定記，叫冤枉是鬼睬你。When you are capable, when you are reasonable, you lose because you didn't bribe. When you are unjustly treated, nobody cares because you didn't bribe.
So frankly, as I'm listening, I've been thinking about with recent development in Hong Kong, where we have the national security law coming through. So I think all these, the correct value of it, can be promoted or communicated to the people in the similar manner. Do you agree?
Well, use of the media can be very effective.
Right.
And the ICAC publicity and education strategies lasted for decades.
Right.
And it proved to be very successful.
Okay.
In fact, the world, all over the world, people came to Hong Kong to learn the ICAC example. Okay. Of course, their investigation, prevention, and then publicity and education are now world models.
Right.
So it proved that if you have a sustained, coordinated effort, then media can help a lot.
Thank you. Let's go for a break and don't go away. Welcome back. We've been talking with Mr. Wong Wah-Kei and about how broadcasting media has been evolving here in Hong Kong. Franklin, since you're one of the former director of broadcasting, how can we not mention about RTHK, the public broadcaster in Hong Kong? I believe you said that you were one of the people who helped create the model of a public broadcaster in an article in Campaign Asia in 2008. So for the viewers' benefit, what does being a public broadcaster mean?
It's different from a commercial broadcaster. A public broadcaster should remain politically neutral. It's impartial. It's different from commercial. That is, it's not subject to pressure from advertisers, from financial pressures, or from political pressure.
Right.
It should be neutral. It should be always trustworthy. Credibility is the key. Impartiality is the key. And it should make distinctive programs as compared to commercial programs.
Right.
That means public affairs, in-depth investigation, and all those more oriented towards the welfare of the people and the government.
Right. Franklin, we often hear of the term editorial independence. What does that mean? What does that term mean to you?
Well, as a public broadcaster, to remain impartial and neutral, they need this editorial independence. It's quite a distinctive feature of public broadcasting.
Right, Franklin, before I go any further, I need to declare that I was the former chairman of the RTHK Board of Advisors until last year. RTHK has been receiving complaints regarding some television programs that defamed and incite hatred of the police force. The Communications Authority issued very serious warnings over these shows that were biased against the police. The Board of Advisors at that time drew the attention of the management to this match between the spirit of the Charter and those programs and advised them to adhere to the Charter faithfully. Consequently, the government then carried out a 6-month investigation, at the end of which they issued a review report of the governance and management of RTHK, which found that there were no proper system in place to ensure that the employees understood RTHK's duty as set out in the Charter. Franklin, now that you're one of the persons who have actually signed the Charter in August 2000, I would like to ask you, with all that has happened, with what's been recently in place, Are you in confidence that the RTHK is going to move along the charter?
Well, this is crystal ball gazing. I understand that there's a lot of reforms going on in RTHK, but with due respect to the incumbent management team, it's not appropriate for me to comment.
I fully agree, because we know that you're limited by the Official Secrets Ordinance, which prevents you from making any damaging disclosures. But maybe you can tell us, why did RTHK need a charter after 50 years of broadcasting as a government department?
In the year 2009, RTHK became public broadcaster of Hong Kong.
Right.
And guaranteed is their editorial independence.
Right.
But with that privilege should came responsibilities.
Yes.
And all their responsibilities are all stated clearly in a charter.
Right.
It's their public purpose, it's their mission, it's the programming area, it's the way of delivery, and then there are guidelines as to observe editorial practice and standards. So as a public broadcaster, this is very essential, and it's not uncommon. In other public broadcasters of the world, they also have charters, very similar terms.
So even in other countries, as a public broadcaster, they will have a set of guidelines or whatever they call it, yes.
Maybe with some different emphasis. Like you say in Australia, there is ABC and SBS, both public broadcasters. But the emphasis of SBS was more on racial harmony, social inclusion. While say in ABC, the emphasis is on distinctive programming as compared to commercial programming. You should make different type of programs to not to compete with the commercials, but to lead the commercial stations. So different places have different charters for their public broadcaster. But the main essential feature still is their editorial independence, their impartiality, and their accurate and well-founded public affairs programs.
Right, yes. Franklin, for your information, maybe for the viewers' benefit, last Wednesday, the RTHK issued a new document, namely the editorial policies and processes of RTHK, which is 105 pages long. It stipulates that all staff must support the government in safeguarding national security and cultivating national identity. It incorporates the RTHK Charter, the producer guidelines, and the code of practice. And the programs must not contain contents that provoke or deepen hatred of central people's government. As we just mentioned about other countries, are these new guidelines unique to Hong Kong, or is common to other jurisdictions as well?
Well, as far as I know, say in the BBC, the Charter takes meticulous care about politics.
Right.
If you invite politicians into your program, you have to get the consultation of a senior advisor of politics. They have an operation procedures to follow with anything involving politics. And if you suspect there are terrorist elements, maybe throughout your investigation or appearing in your program, you have immediately report them.
Right.
So I think in different places, politics and all these, they have special guidelines how to deal with it.
So frankly, I mean, you had worked in Singapore before, you're also in Beijing and Malaysia and also Australia. Do you think each country will have their own guidelines to all these, as you just mentioned?
True. I think public broadcasters or broadcasters, they all have their own mission statements, or China, but with different emphasis. That's the difference. Say in Singapore, when I reported duty, nobody told us what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, except that they reminded me that we should respect race, religion, and folk customs.
Right. Franklin, in the last part of the show, I'm sure let's move forward to looking for Hong Kong. I mean, we have the 14th five-year plan for the Hong Kong. Hong Kong is part of it. And also we have the Greater Bay Area right next to us. I think last month, the Hong Kong celebrities, along with mainland ones, Taiwan, Macau, for a Mid-Autumn Festival concert, we sing a lot of Cantonese songs and all that. So Hong Kong, performers have a place. So in your opinion, in the coming few years, how would you encourage our youngsters to grab this opportunity in the Greater Bay Area, especially from the media industry?
Well, it is a new opening available for Hong Kong media workers. Look, our movie industry is now in a doldrum.
Yes.
Our production is about 50 movies a year compared to a peak of over 200 titles per year in the 1980s.
Wow.
So, and we can only afford to make low-budget movies. Television stations in Hong Kong are struggling because business has been shrinking. Their market share all over the world is shrinking.
Right.
Because of competition, Korea, China, and United States Hollywood, and online streaming programs.
Right.
These are all competitions, and they are struggling. Now, if we take the opportunity to go into the Greater Bay Area, raising capital is easier in China.
Right.
They have available funds. Their movies budgets are 10 times our movie budgets. And they have innovations, technology in the Greater Bay Area, Shenzhen.
Okay.
That would help in production techniques. And then there are policies giving tax incentives and all those living housing incentives, all these to attract our people. It's a good opportunity. The population is 70 million.
Yes, exactly. So thank you, Franklin, for coming to share with us your experience and insight into the evolution of media in Hong Kong. You have certainly reaffirmed the key role broadcasting media plays in bringing Hong Kong society together. Thanks for joining us. Have a good week and good night.